Hi, this is Sona here. I'm doing this video by special request. It's my story, and I'm just gonna tell you how I ended up on this path and where I am now. Um, Back when I was a lot younger, I started in the real estate industry about almost 20 years ago, and I started as a locator, which was a real estate agent with that leases apartments. That's what I did. I was married at the time, very negative husband. Our life wasn't the best. He kept our mother, not our mother, but his mother in our business a lot. He hid money from me. He cheated on me. Um, and I did everything. It was all about him. He was my world at that time. Um, I made a lot of money back then. That's back when Clinton was in office. Um, I was commission only. I made half the first month's rent when someone leases at an apartment. And back then, that was in Atlanta. Life was good. Um, but at that time, I got pregnant and I had my son. And that was back in 1999. And I had to give up my job for my baby. So, the doctor's like, job or baby? You got to choose. So I chose baby. Now, mind you, I wasn't the type of person to sit on my butt. I had a high risk pregnancy at that time, and my ex-husband had to pick up the slack when he was my husband at that time. And the funny thing is, when I got pregnant, things fell into place because I was a little worried. He got a promotion, he got a raise, all that happened. And I was like, okay, God, you won't have me have this baby. How am I gonna have this baby and we ain't got no money? Well, he got a raise. It was enough to take care of the both of us. And then he took on a second job. At this moment, I was blind to the fact that he was hiding money. So I was on bed rest, but I still hustled. I still had my little side hustle, to manage pay my bills. I wasn't making six figures at that time, but I had a hustle. So then my son was born. I had some complications where I had to have nasal surgery. I'm going to try to shorten this as quickly as possible so you can get the understanding of where I'm at now. Well, after my son, he turns one, things start really going sour. I'm starting noticing the cheating. My marriage is falling apart. I'm trying to hold on to it. And it got to the point where, I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with my husband. I wasn't happy with my life. I wasn't happy with anything. Mind you, I had never been on my own at all. At this time, I'm like 30 years old. So I muster up the courage to tell my ex-husband now, to tell him I'm leaving. Mind you, I had really much of nothing. At this time, I went back to work. I was on site as a leasing consultant. I was making good money, decent money. And I moved into an apartment on site. Now, mind you, I was not getting along with my bosses. It was not a good situation for me. So I ended up losing that job, and I worked this other job. I went from job to job, job to job. And believe me, I'm not a job person. So eventually I ended up getting this job with this company, Archstone. It was a beautiful property. They've heard of my reputation. Things were going well. My son was in preschool. But mind you, with all the negativity and negative talk that was surrounding me, it was very hard for me to maintain a particular lifestyle I was accustomed to. I mean, I made a good salary, but I wasn't in that six figure before my son was. My son was born. And so, mind you, my property sold, left that job, ended up going to another job. And this is where it kind of manifestation kind of clicked for me. Whereas I ended up working at this regional called me and she says, hey, I need your help. And she knew me from when I was a locator. So I had a reputation in Atlanta. So I could always land on my feet. I was like a cat in Atlanta. I could always land at my feet. So, and people knew my reputation and my work. So I've always, like I said, I always made a job, really good. I always did a good job. I had a reputation. I lived on beautiful properties. I never lived poorly at all. Things were pretty good as I look back on them. So back in, I have to say, I left property management because I was a little burned out. And I decided to go to skincare school. So I became an esthetician. So I went to school, made the sacrifice. My son was 6. Made the sacrifice because I was like, okay, this is going to make me some money. This is going to make me some money. And I've always wanted to have my own skincare line because I did do a skincare products, but I didn't know what I was putting on the skin. So I said, this is the time for me to go to school. People were selling properties left and right. I was over it, being bounced around. So then I went to skincare school, and this was a life changer for me. In the midst of moving from one apartment to the other, and I was going through a bad time. I was getting my divorce finally was going through, and my ex-husband wanted to fight me on a divorce, and it was horrible. It was a very negative time for me. At that point, I was in between transition. This was 2 weeks before Hurricane Katrina. I flipped a car on I-20 in Atlanta 4 times, and I'm here living to tell about it. Mind you, I was in the middle of skincare school. My son was sick. My 6 years old. My son thought he had lost his mother. Now, mind you, I stopped traffic that night. I woke up. This woman was praying over me. Now, this was a life changer because when I went up that median, and I'm trying not to tear up, when I went up that median, my only reaction was to say, thank you, God. That's all I could say was, thank you, God. And I blacked out. And, because I remember waking up, this woman was praying over me. I mean, I had angels all around me. That night, I ended up in hospital. And I mind you, I was in the hospital for 8 hours. No pain medication. A woman had a baby beside me because she was hit by a car. And my ex-husband arrived at my side. He came to my side. He called my mother. My mother had the nerve to ask him, how bad is it? He says, it's real bad. You need to get here. So basically, he had to take over and keep my son. I was alone. My mom didn't show up until 2 weeks after my accident. I was basically alone with my cat. I had broken my hand, lacerated my fingers to the bone. I had a contusion in my forehead, size of a grapefruit, multiple contusions to my body, elbow scraped to the bone, face burned by an airbag, black eyes, whole 9 yards. 2 days after the hospital, my ex-husband took me to divorce court. Wanted to argue it out. Took me to divorce court. He had an attorney. I didn't even have an attorney. We had no assets. We didn't have a pot to piss in. He wanted to argue about the divorce. And I was like, look, I was at the point, I said, look, we have a son here. I said, these people got houses and all this sitting up in this courtroom. I said, I just got out of the hospital. Let's just settle the divorce amicably. I can't even talk. And let me get on my way. So, this is when I began to rebuild. I didn't drive on that freeway for over a year. And I managed to complete aesthetic school. I had multiple jobs and I started my business. Actually, I had a business inside the school. I was hustling. I was making $300 a week doing chemical pills. Money I had, I started buying equipment. I started having my clients and I started a mobile spa. You could probably Google it, Nectar's Mobile Spa, based in Atlanta. I also had a location in LA. And people knew when it was party time and I called them, they knew I was serious because I paid everybody well. They walked out the door at least $500 an hour for their time. And that's where money came in again. Things were good. I had my instructor, my mentor. She was the consultant to my business. She told me how to run my business. Um, again, I was very close to the six-figure lifestyle. Again, things were great. People knew my reputation. They knew I had interviews. People interview. I was interviewed back in the 2006 by Rolling Out magazine. Um, I had, things were great. Um, but then my son got sick. I'm like, okay, what are you doing to me, God? I'm like, what are you doing? My son got sick. Couldn't figure out what was wrong until we found out he had Crohn's disease. Try to got him stabilized, and I said around 11 years old he stopped responding. At this point, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I called the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. They said, hey, we got a specialist. She's doing a lot of cutting edge stuff, but she's in Los Angeles, California. Mind you, things wasn't really going that well for me in in Atlanta. I was displeased, unhappy. My ex was causing more drama. His family was causing drama for my son. My son was stressed out and he was getting sicker and sicker. So I put my stuff on a moving truck, not knowing if I was going to be able to pay for it. And I think I had about $800 in my pocket at the time. And I got my car ready and I drove cross country to Los Angeles to go see that doctor for my kid. It took me 3 weeks to get to LA. I stayed a few weeks with a friend of mine, and then I stayed 3 days at my aunt's house, and we stayed at a hotel. I took a hotel by the beach. We stayed there about a week, and then I ended up in the valley and stayed in multiple hotels until I found a room to rent. Mind you, this is where the really negative experience was. I still ran my business from LA in Atlanta. I still had my business going on. And after 2008, the crash was a luxury. A lot of businesses went out of businesses and slowed down, and mine was one of them. So again, a year of loss, a year of failure. So at this point in my life, I'm in LA, and I'm like, okay, I'm renting this room. Didn't have any furniture. My stuff was, I owed $5,000 for my stuff. And I'm renting this room, and this girl's trying to be an actress, and she was tripping, and three of us sharing this, 3 adults, 2 kids sharing this 3-bedroom apartment in the barrio, in the Mexican ghetto. So mind you, we got into this argument, and I ended up moving in with this other lady, single mom. Oh my God, she was nasty. Just nasty. Come to find out, the rent we were paying, the landlord's house was under foreclosure, so the roommate decided she didn't want to pay rent. And at this point, we got people that they filed eviction on us. The judge gave us 30 days to move out. I moved out, got my own apartment, and that's when I really set off to do my business in LA. And this is when I started finding out the people in LA were totally different from what I was accustomed to in Atlanta. I tell you, I was driving from North Hollywood to Santa Clarita, doing $29 massages, and people wouldn't even tip me. I'm in these big houses, and people wouldn't even tip me for taking care of them. I'm doing Groupon, I'm doing all these deals and these daily deal sites, and people would not even tip. They didn't even care. Some of them didn't even say thank you. They felt like they were entitled. I even did a free service for editor of Lucky magazine. I got a thank you, but I didn't even get a mention in the magazine. I got a mention in C magazine at that time. I did the editor of that, and she gave me a small mention, which I was very grateful for. But it still didn't get me a lot of business in LA, full paying business. And so then my son, he began to get sick again, and I couldn't manage my schedule and 10 other therapists' schedule, and I had to shut my business down. I lost my apartment, put my stuff in storage, Now, mind you, the first storage, I got some stuff out, but I lost that storage. The stuff that I moved to LA with, I lost it. And then I took this job, supposed to work in Vegas, came back, they fired us all. I lost all my things, all my mementos, everything I built up, I lost. My son's baby pictures, everything I lost. I made you, I lost it. So, at this point, I'm staying in hotels trying to keep things together, and we ended up in this home. We went to this church. They helped us out with a couple of nights. They ended up sending us to this place where we were homeless. And they had us sleeping in churches on cots. And I tell you, I have nothing against people in the church, but some people in the church are horrible. They were treating us like prisoners, like we were less than human. Ended up at this other shelter, women's shelter. I met a good friend. I'm still in contact with her today. And on New Year's Day, 2014, they put me out of that shelter because my son had to go to Atlanta to see his father, court order. Then I ended up in this other shelter. They hunted me down to take it like it was a prison. Ended up in that shelter for 8 months, and I said, I would never, ever go to a shelter again after that experience. Had my own place, ended up in this little tiny apartment with my son in LA. Good thing was it was right down the street from the school, but the woman didn't even take care of it. We had roaches, AC didn't work, we had a wall AC, plumbing halfway worked, electrical halfway worked. One summer, it was triple digits. We had no AC, and she refused to fix it. But she wanted me to pay her $1,200 a month. So I ended up moving to this other apartment around the corner, trying to have all the luxury, $2,700 a month apartment, and I was doing pretty good up until I lost my job. I'm like, okay, God, why are you doing this to me? What is it? Am I creating this? I at this point, I don't know. Because I was so broken. I mean, Los Angeles and the energy, all that broke me down. People around me broke me down. I mean, I was so broken. So, at this point, I had lost my job. And I took this other job. I could barely make ends meet with this job. I'm running my car in the ground, and I got hurt. I mean, I couldn't turn my neck. I am still dealing with pinched nerves for this day, and I have pinched nerves from C2 to C5. And like I said, my life is not hunky-dory or anything, but I knew at this point I had to make a change. So mind you, I got unemployment, and I was staying from place to place. I moved out of my apartment. Lost my apartment, got evicted actually. Moved, staying from place to place, stayed with a friend, helped her out. Come to find out, she was a straight scammer. She scammed her roommate into moving, and I got to the point where I said, I'm leaving LA. I can't do it. So I was stayed with some friends in San Diego for holidays. They did Airbnb, so I paid them through Airbnb. And then I got to the point where something happened with her husband. He was tripping, and she wanted me to stay with her. She had the tooth pulled, and he didn't want me to stay, and it was crazy. So I left. So I ended up starting to stay in Orange County, and that was in January. And I'm staying from place to place, Airbnb, trying to figure out where I wanted to stay. And this is when the manifestations start happening. I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You know, I started working, but I'm still staying Airbnb. And so I said, okay, I got to make some stuff. I got to make some changes. So you know, that's where my videos start happening. Whereas I didn't work for 2 months in March. I didn't work for March, and I still was taken care of. And so that's when I started really, really manifesting stuff. And start manifesting my stabilizing and everything. And that's where really the video started to come from, my journey from leaving Los Angeles, because I'm an empath and I know when you're lying. I know when you know, people close to me, I know what you're feeling. And I'm very energy sensitive. I'm like a sponge. One thing you can't get across to me is BS. And I can't BS you. So that's when things started happening. I started making these videos. And I started manifesting. And this is the quickest I've ever done something, like manifesting where I wanted to be, manifesting my home and everything. And this is pretty much my story in a nutshell. I mean, I came from an abusive childhood. My mother abused me physically, mentally, emotionally. My husband at the time, he abused me emotionally and mentally as well. His mother abused me mentally and emotionally as well. And all I had to cling on was my son. That was my salvation. That was my motivation for living. Because believe me, it was been times that I wanted to commit suicide. And I have tried. It wasn't successful. I was kind of pissed off about that. But my son is who I live for. And that is my motivation. And, you know, my son tells me, Mom, you're amazing every day. And he tells me, you know, you have this magical forehead and I don't know how you do it. And a lot of people tell me I don't know how you do it. And, you know, I tell you, some of the people that have been around me and like even my family, I have never had really any full support of my family. My mom told me, she just told me, you know, I should have never helped you. I should have never, you know, I should have sat in the heat helping you. You know, everything she's ever done for me, she's thrown up in my face. And, you know, sometimes, you know, you have to, as a real talk Kim, you know, she's a pastor in Atlanta, and I tell you, I get my spiritual food from her videos. You have to watch her. And she'll tell you, you know what, take them from the VIP section and put them in the balcony. I said, no, they're in the back alley. So, when you know who's in your corner and what you need to do to manifest what you need to manifest, you know, it takes experiences in your life to make you realize what you have and what you've lost and to let go the past. And that's the reason why I said, you know, some people need some coaching and some help through it so they'd be able to easily manifest. You know, I just managed to let go the past and let go of people that didn't serve a purpose for me. And oh my God, this is the longest video I've ever done. But, you know, somebody requested to know my story and, you know, and how, you know, I managed to get to this point and how I lived a six-figure lifestyle. Believe me, I traveled to Bermuda, Bahamas. You know, I've gotten a chance to, you know, like I said, fly first class. You know, my first flight was on a FedEx plane when I worked for Federal Express at 18. I got to fly for free. So I got to do a lot of things that most people probably hadn't never done in their life. But I wanted to, you know, kind of cut this story short and not really go into full detail because I plan on writing a book. When, I don't know. But somebody made a special request of knowing my story. And pretty much this is a short version of it. And I plan on having that six-figure lifestyle again. Probably seven-figure lifestyle. I've had several people that came across my path out here saying, I would not be surprised you were one of the richest real estate brokers in California. And I've had 3 people across my path to tell me this because they said my personality is genuine, and I try to be genuine and I strive to be genuine with it. But you know, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. This is Sona here. Subscribe. You can like or dislike. I don't care. You can watch this if you want to. You can share this with people. Believe me, I'm keeping it real. I'm not going to feed you any fluff. You're on my journey with me. I haven't seen anybody do this as, you know, like I'm doing it. I'm just keeping it real. And again, subscribe, share this with a friend. I hope this helps someone, you know, and I'll see you soon. I think this is going to be my last video for the week because I have to get ready for my son's graduation. I have to get mentally prepared for that because drama's coming to town. And I'll let y'all know what happens after that. This is Sona. Bye.